Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Soul Empowerment. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach and one of the hosts and co-creators of this program. Welcome. I'm glad to see we've got a number of people here on the live presentation, which is excellent. So for those of you who are here live, my invitation to you is just feel free to share whatever you like in the chat, and we will do our best to respond to you or answer questions or whatever else. Today, we're going to be talking about messages from beyond. And we've had some conversations about this, and we talked about all kinds of different sources. We talked about, guardian angels. We've talked about mythical beings, and there's all kinds of different things. And I just thought, let's just see where this goes and have some fun with it. But before I go any further, I would like to introduce all the people on my panel. And excuse me, I'm going to go in a counterclockwise direction today. So the first person I see is Nancy Stevens. Nancy, please say hello and introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Nancy Stevens, and I'm a part of the Wellness Universe family. I host a show myself, Vibrant Wellbeing, but I'm honored to be here on this show today. I work as a well-being coach, and I do all things self-care and holistic well-being for body, mind, and spirit. I also am co-founder of a natural-based organic skincare brand as well. So when I'm not hosting and co-hosting, I'm working on my skincare brand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. And next in my counterclockwise direction is Sarah. Say hello, Sarah Jane.
Hello, Sarah Jane. Sorry. We might as well start off with some humor.
Right?
I know many of the beings. That's what, humor. It's about humor. It's about having fun.
That's right.
And yes, folks, I do actually find that I'm connected with, I do many things, but one of the things I have found is that I channel messages from many beings in the mythical realm, including dragons. Yes, I'm going to leave at that side of my life now. So I share a monthly message from a different mythical being, and from the dragons that guard over the earth crystals. So that's just a part of what I do and what I bring.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I'm so glad you're here with us again today. And of course, last but by no means least, and promoted to #1 in my book, is Christy Borst. Say hello, Christy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Christy Borst, and I hail from Maine, and I am an intuitive energy healer. And I would say my focus is inner child healing and emotional healing, which can really be the underpinning for any physical ailment that can occur in the body. And I love supporting people to that next best version of self. The time is now.
That's right. As I've heard some people say, if not you, who? If not now, when? Or maybe I got it backwards, but that's the essence of the message. And it's always a good question to ask myself, well, if not me, who? And if not now, when? So maybe that's just a little bit of a nugget that we can all kind of think about today. First of all, I want to just say to everybody who's watching, you can reach out to any one of us on this program. You can watch our videos. You can go to my website at Your Life Mastery Coach, and you can see the videos there. And I have contact information for everybody who's on these programs. So please feel free to reach out if you resonate with somebody, or if one of us really touches you in some way and you'd like to know more. Feel free to reach out, because that's what we're here for. We're here to support you to have the best possible life you can have. And in soul empowerment in particular, our objective is it's not so much to empower the soul as to get the ego mind out of the way so that the soul can blossom forth and bring forth what is really meant to be here for you. And that's really what we mean by soul empowerment. And so we share all kinds of different messages here to talk about various different ways that we can release the things that stop us from staying connected to our soul. And in my write-up for this particular article, I pointed out that we did an episode a couple of months ago, I guess it was, I don't remember exactly when, called, what did we call it? The,
Feather
come
and
on, somebody help.
fur.
The what? The
The magic
wisdom
of
of feather
feather
and
and
fur.
fur. Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
right. Where we talked a little bit about the importance of animals in our lives. And that sparked some other conversation, which led us to want to talk a little bit more about other sources of messages from beyond. So, Sarah, I know this is a really big, important topic for you. So I'm going to let you start us off and maybe, bring in what you think is one of the most important aspects of listening to messages from beyond.
Okay, I'm actually going to start you with a poem that was given to me by Dragonheart. And I think that it speaks to a lot to what you've sort of said to a certain degree. Open your heart, free your mind. You are love of the purest kind. Feel that love in the core of your being. It is strength, courage, gentleness, and giving. This life is yours to live and experience. Be honest and true to your heart's guidance. Open your eyes to the beauty all around. Let your ears hear the majesty of sound. Let your heart sing and your words give it voice. Know that everything in your life is your choice. We dragons are with you. You have your own guardian and guide. The doors of the mythical realm are opening wide. We are bringing you wisdom from the realms, from nature, trees, the oaks and the elms. Gaia, the elementals, fairies, angels, and more are all here knocking at your door. Welcome us all in with open arms and watch as the storm of life calms. Every problem is an opportunity. Every challenge brings a new possibility. Allow your life to go with the ebb and flow, open to experiences that help you grow. So open your heart and free your mind to the wonders in life that are there for you to find.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Do you have that in an electronic form available by any chance?
Yeah.
I wonder, when you get a chance, when you're not speaking, maybe you can grab that document and just copy and paste the text into the chat there so people can see that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
But that's a beautiful poem and a really good reminder to us about, how we are love. We are love. When we get down to the true essence of who we really are, love is what we find. And what we need to do, I think, is we need to do whatever healing is necessary to remove the mental blocks, and in particular those ego mind blocks, so that we can stay connected to that love. I really appreciate that poem, Sarah. Please tell me a little bit about why it's so important to you.
This all started, I've always been aware of angel, or very much believed in angels, let's just put it that way. And I think it was towards the end of 2009. Some things happened, some workshops and bits and pieces. And I suddenly thought, what happens if a mythical being came to you in a meditation or whatever? I thought, what's their meaning? Because you can find out sort of messages from angels and animals, the meaning, because we were talking about the animals, as I said you said a couple of months ago, but it was the mythical beings. And I couldn't find any information anywhere. I got a couple of books about myths and legends and folklore, but it didn't actually help with the answering of that question. What was the message if a particular being showed up for you? And I think I was sat in the car one day and I was thinking about it, and I don't hear voices, I don't see things, I have a sense of knowing, but the words were in my head, you're doing it. It was just like, thanks. And so I had to sit with pen and paper at that stage. And I got the books out, and it was just read the myth and legend. And there would be a word that would come out in that would spark a message that I then had to sit and handwrite as it sort of like came through. These days I actually record them and then have to transcribe them, but it was amazing. But the one thing they they said to me as a group was, please do not share our myth and legend. So many of them have been distorted to create fear. And bearing in mind that I've got a beautiful story about the werewolf, but we can come back to that. And the dragons, a beautiful message from the dragons that came about because of sort of something. And I would sort of really say it is really important that we don't judge these beings by their myth and legend. And that's been made very clear to me by them.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think that we can all learn a little lesson or two about judgment in general, not just about the things that we can't see. You know, and we've talked about that here. You know, judgment is really just an externalized form of projection where we're, you know, seeing aspects of things outside of ourselves that we choose not to address from within. And that's essentially what our judgment boils down to. So it can be a great gift if we choose to see it as such, you know. Christy, what's your perspective on this concept of mythical beings? I suspect in the work that you do, you have some connection to them as well, right?
I do, and I think what I'd like to say first and foremost, just which came up with what you were both just saying, is that I think the older that I get, the more I want to delve into things that have negative stories aligned to them, because I think that in some ways certain roadblocks may have been put in our place to some things that can actually bring us soul empowerment. So I 100% agree not to dive into fear stories, but to maybe look at who did those fear stories support in the first place.
Right.
The biggest, I think, guidance I get is through animals and nature. I personally do not see guides and beings that work with me, but I have had other people who I've worked with see them in presence in our sessions together. So I kind of merge with everything when I'm doing sessions, because I believe that we are all connected. There's really no separation. So I go to that point of non-duality or non-separation. So from that standpoint, I do not recognize guides or beings as external from me. I'm connected in with everything. But that, you know, that doesn't mean I don't believe in them or I don't value them. It's like saying, you know, like you wouldn't say, you know, my left arm is more important than my right arm, right? It's all, everything's important, and each of us here is important. And I think that's probably, we would all agree, that's one of the primary reasons that we're here doing this show, is we want people to realize how important they are. And that, you know, you said earlier, David, who am I to be? You know, each of us came here to be the vibration, the soul essence that only we can be. So, so I think it's about letting go of negative programming that's in any kind of fear about connecting to guides or angels or archangels. I am one that does not go through rituals of protection, or, you know, because I feel like if you have to put yourself in a mode of protection, then you're starting from a place of fear. And if you're starting from a place of fear, then you're opening the door to things that maybe you don't want to open yourself to. So as you kind of consider connecting with these these other energies that are not in physical form, um, connect with light. Be in connection with your own self as light, and in that space you are perfectly safe.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Just before I continue, I just want to mention Sarah did drop that poem into the chat there. If you can't see it, you may have to click on the link that says public chat in the upper left corner of your screen. And then you can probably see that. You can feel free to copy. I hope it's okay, Sarah, if people just copy and paste that into their own notepad or whatever, and then they can read it on their own.
Absolutely, but I've put the copy right there very deliberately. Not
Yeah,
that I
good.
distrust people, but it's just it's really important I protect that.
Right.
And that was beautiful,
Anyway,
Sarah.
I just want to put that out there. And also, just a reminder, if you have comments or questions, or you want to say something a little bit about this topic to us, feel free to put your comments right in the chat there. So Nancy, let me hear a little bit about your perspective on this topic. What's happening for you here?
Well, I further just applaud Sarah for all your work done. I can't say I've had experience myself with mythical beings, but I definitely feel that beautiful energy of all that is dynamic and flowing here on Earth. That's either deep, deep below it or deep in the astral plane. It's just, I guess it's comforting in a way because I know that I'm never alone. Now, like you, Christy, I know because I do believe in that energy entity in all things. I personally believe there is light and dark, or quote, for let back good or evil. I choose to be aligned with a bright, beautiful light. I think all of our lives are in that light sphere. But we of course we have a choice. We could go down into the dark light, but I choose not to live that way. So that being said, I'm deeply connected with animals and angels. Yesterday, I went to have an acupuncture, and my acupuncturist he's very profound in his work, but he asked me to spend some time with my maternal grandmother. And during the session, although my hands were separate on either side of my leg, I was on my back. I felt my hands were being held, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so I mentioned that to him. He said, "Oh, that was you were somebody was with you." And I said, "That was probably my grandma." So it was just it was yeah, it was really beautiful. So yes, my experience has been feeling very supported, especially when I've maybe felt I was completely alone. But no, but then looking back, it's like, oh, I was never alone. I was always supported and protected or encouraged, even in those times of my life when I was in my maybe darkest hour or struggling.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating, isn't it, that we all have, I think we all have experiences like that. We don't necessarily, as you mentioned, Christy, we don't necessarily see things clearly as, okay, I'm speaking to an angel right now, or I'm speaking to, you recognize this being from a, let's say, a sight experience. But you might recognize something just from the energetic experience. It doesn't have to be sight. There may be sound involved. There may be sensation involved. There may just be smells or tastes. There's no reason why your other senses can't be used to communicate with you and to get a message through to you. The question is whether or not you're aware of it. That's really what it boils down to. And that's where I think meditation can become a very, very powerful tool. Each of us can meditate in our own way, but ultimately, the purpose of meditation is to bring focus to something, whatever that something might be. And maybe in the case of what we're talking about here today is just focusing your attention on a source of information, whether it happens to be a mythical being like a dragon, or whether it happens to be a guardian angel, or whether it happens to just be maybe a mountain on some other planet that somehow speaks to you in music or something. It doesn't matter what it is. You as a unique being on this planet have your own way of communicating with these, whatever these beings are. And as Nancy mentioned, there is I think we all have to make a choice about what kind of beings we want to connect with, because not all beings out there have our best interests at heart. So you have to put your protection on and say, I invite only beings who will support me in growing and becoming the best possible human being I can be. And I respectfully decline the visits of other kinds of beings who don't have my best interests at heart. So you can say that, and you can set that intention for yourself, and you can protect yourself consciously while still investigating the possibilities for yourself. So that's my recommendation for people. Christy, it looks like you were about to say something.
Did you want to go, Sarah, hon?
The other way you could put it is, I choose to only work with the highest energies which choose to work with me.
Well, but the word highest can have different meanings for different people. And I know where you're coming from, and I agree with you. I still think for people who are maybe new to this, they have to say, I choose only to engage with beings who have my highest good and the highest good of the universe in their intention, and who choose to work with me. Then I agree with you. But I think it's important to make the distinction, because if we're not careful, we can unwittingly invite in energies that can actually have a negative impact on our lives.
Christy, you want to
So
say something?
what I wanted to mention was, just as people are starting to kind of open themselves to connecting with angels or, dragons or deities or, whatever. One of the things that I did myself as I started to open up to my own intuitive abilities was, there are tools we can use when we're starting out, like pendulums, or you could have figurines, or you could have crystals, whatever. But pay attention to what you sense in your own body. So just to give an example, when I feel that I'm connected with divine feminine, which I would say is akin to like a Mother Mary energy or a Kuan Yin energy, I see pink light. Now, other people may not have that experience, but that's what I see. So it's about learning your own cues, your own ways that you feel. Maybe you feel something in your stomach, maybe you feel something in your heart. So it's almost like you open yourself to play a little bit and figure out what you feel, or what you see or what you sense. And the one thing I do want to mention that I didn't mention before is that I am very much aligned with fairy energy. I totally believe that there are fairies, or elementals, some may call them. And so those are beings that I feel a kinship to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'd like to just say something about that, because I was having a conversation with another friend of mine the other day, and, we were talking about this topic. And the fact of the matter is, there are, and I think I mentioned this in the write-up, there are cultures all over the world where, and some of these are very ancient cultures, where they talk about different kinds of beings that today, in our scientific and intellectual way of being, we would just dismiss as myths and legends. And the question that keeps coming up for me is, if they're just myths and legends, why do so many people across so much time and across so much geography seem to have similar kinds of experiences? They're not all liars. You know, they're not all just making this up. Something there really, really exists. So my recommendation and my invitation is don't dismiss it out of hand. You know, just because you can't see it, taste it, touch it, feel it, or smell it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So let's try and be open. And when I say open, I mean open in the sense of allowing for possibilities. That's really what I mean by that. Go ahead, Christy.
I would just say be childlike, because I think as children, we likely experienced a lot of this, but we're told, you know, oh, that's not real.
That's right.
So becoming more and more childlike can be very self-expanding.
I agree. Nancy, I'd like to hear from you.
Gosh, I'm just taking everyone's all of your good wisdom, and I would definitely agree with you that in order to begin experiencing life out of the tangible realm, you would begin to cultivate a mindfulness or meditation practice, so that you get out, like you said, you get out of that your chattering mind or the ego mind, and you're just in tune with your inner essence. Because it is difficult if you're constantly doing external things and hearing all of that noise to begin to create a relationship with what is out there, if you're constantly looking for the next stimuli. That would be my experience. Was when I became quiet and was working on being really present and mindful, that I began to see and experience so much more that was, you know, the intangible, which is, you can't explain it, but yet what you said, if it in fact is myth or whatever, then why are so many people experiencing things that you can't give a picture to, or a thing? So that has been my experience. In order to make a connection, whether it be the mythical realm of dragons, or fairies, angels, or just in nature or presence, like you said, feeling the presence of something or hearing it, you would just need to begin to cultivate an open relationship between you and yourself and what is out there, to really feel and let that in. And that's been my experience of how I've begun my own journey, that's still expanding and continuing to this day.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Sarah, you look like you're about to say something. Do you want to go ahead?
I've got so much I can say, but what I would say is, if people are interested in meditations, I'm happy to share a link. They are all free, and I say all because I mean all. Meditation to meet your own guardian dragon. Everybody has at least one guardian dragon. To meet at least one of your guardian angels, because you've got more than one of those as well. To visit the mythical realm. Meet your guardian unicorn. Sort of meet an animal guide. I've shared a number of different meditations, so I'm very happy to find the link for that page if people want to go and just try and see whether they can. But the dragons did say to me, when the very first message they gave to me was, bearing in mind they've said don't share our myth and legend, they said to me, there is an aspect of our myth and legend that is true. We do guard over a treasure. You are your dragon's treasure.
Beautiful.
Which I thought was absolutely beautiful. So, you know, and I know that in meditation I met mine, Phoebe, and it was just an awareness. I was getting all the colors of the rainbow, and she's a clear quartz crystal dragon. And more recently, in the last few years, I've become aware of Grandfather Dragon. Grandfather Dragon is, get it right, he is an old and very wise dragon. And from what I can gather, our souls have been connected from the beginning, whatever you want to think of the beginning as being. So so that probably makes it more understandable that I connect with so many dragons and mythical beings.
I just,
But
I have a question, a little quick question here. Sarah, when you talk about dragons, I'm sure that we all have our own visual image in our mind about what a dragon is. How close are our typical representations of dragons to what you experience in your interaction with them?
bearing in mind I don't see.
Right.
But actually, again, I didn't see it. It was an awareness. But at the messenger summits, when I was on the stage, but even when I was aware of others on the stage, I didn't see it. It was just an awareness of this massive black dragon right there. And I've come to realize that that massive black dragon was actually Grandfather Dragon. Bearing in mind that connection, he's always been with me. But I think it's, who's to say what they look like? Because you've got to, if you go through the information in myths and legends and folklore, if you go to sort of China and Japan, they're more serpent-like. And I think it's somewhere in South America, they've got a feathered serpent, which would still be classed under the dragon. Then you've obviously got the more European that are winged. So does it matter if you get a winged, if you get a more serpent-like dragon? It doesn't matter. It is what they believe you're going to be most comfortable with. With the meditation I shared to meet your guardian dragon, which I believe between the two that I've shared have had over 20,000 hits. So yeah. People love dragons. And I've had lots of notes and messages from people, and I've gone back to them and said, sometimes you haven't seen your dragon in the meditation because they are being respectful of not making you afraid. When you are comfortable, they will show themselves to you. You may just feel their energy and not see them. And as I said, I am not a seer. I am a knower.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I know it's Claire.
Yeah, and
Claire,
I think this is really important because I'm going to say something that might seem outrageous. But first of all, Christy, you mentioned this early on about how we're all connected. We're all one. Everything is, I mean, there is all that is, and then there's just our story about it all. But all that is has to include everything, which means if you can imagine something, then it's out there. It's part of the all that is. It may be in existence in another dimension, in another galaxy, in whatever, but if you can imagine it, it exists. So don't just simply dismiss stuff as idle imagination. Understand that you are simply tapping into what something that already exists. So the same could be very, very true. In fact, I believe it is true about, guardian angels, guardian dragons, all these other things that we're talking about. It just may be something that hasn't arrived in your experience yet. And so it's easy to dismiss it if you personally have not experienced it while you're in this physical life form. Okay? So, but don't close yourself off to the possibility by dismissing something out of hand. Open yourself and say, maybe that's possible. Or isn't that an interesting idea? Try that thought out. Isn't that an interesting idea? And see what happens. Just a suggestion.
I know we talked about this in another episode, and I think, David, you also mentioned that you had an accident. I had an accident in which I felt that I was carried as I was falling in a situation that I could have really been killed in. So I think, perhaps others who, even those on the call, may have had situations that were unusual in those instances, maybe you had a, you could call it a divine intervention, or a, you know, in a non-physical being support you. So just something to maybe think about and keep your mind open to. The other thing that I am getting a message to talk about fire a little bit. I know that a lot of times dragons are portrayed with fire, and again, there's a lot of fear that surrounds fire, but fire is really a necessary part of creation.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So
Fire is an amazing form of energy, and it's beautiful to watch. How often do people, I mean, go camping and sit in front of a little campfire and just watch the flames for hours on end? It's so soothing. It's a meditative process as unto itself.
So I would
Yeah.
just say, you know, invite the fire energy into your life rather than fearing it, you know. See what changes just by allowing yourself to embrace fire in a positive, creative way.
There
Well,
are
you know, and
actually,
fire is one of the, you mentioned elementals before. And so in terms of elements, we have what? Fire, water, earth, wind,
Mhm.
and ether. Or maybe there's one other. But I think that those are the primary elements. And there's amazing energy in all of them. So I'm sorry, Sarah, I think I just stomped on you there. Go ahead.
that's all right. I can't remember what I was going to say now. But elementals, there are certainly 4 elementals within the mythical realm. The gnome is earth. Okay. Let's get this right. Sylphs are air, salamanders are fire, and the undines are water.
What was the last one?
Undines,
Okay.
Undines, I think.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So the elementals are the 4 elements.
Sure. Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful. Nancy, you're looking like I'm just waiting to hear the wisdom coming out
Well,
of you.
I was going to, again, this brings it back around once again that when we are still and make the choice to broaden our perspective, or to stay and be open versus going back into maybe that comfort zone. Well, this isn't true. If I don't see it, it's not there. You know, I don't want to deal with it. Um, by broadening our perspective and being open, there is so much magic and wonder and beauty in fire, in water, in nature, in, you know, being outdoors. And that reminds me of a story. I think you might have been there. We had when Soul Treat, I think it was maybe their first Soul Treat that they had in Sedona, which to me is a very magical healing place. There's lots of really amazing energy there. But we went, where you were there, David. We went to this native fire cleansing ceremony.
Yep.
And I love fire, so I'm all about the fire. I just love it. So after the ceremony, the fire was burning. They had put in some very ritual healing, cleansing elements of sage, a certain type of Indian grass. I mean, it was very intentional what the fire was built from. And then we released what no longer served us. So we had a ceremony where everybody on their own released. But as the fire was, we were done with the ceremony, and for me and a few others stayed and were looking at the flames. Well, I started taking pictures with my phone, and within those flames, you could see faces. I can't even explain it. And I showed it to people because I was like, okay, is this just me? I have been very fascinated. And so I think the Native American couple, he's like, oh yeah, we were accompanied by our support beings that were here with us during this ceremony. So I am very much knowing that there's so much more than meets the eye. And I guess the theme is just to give yourself access to staying really open in order to experience that, but doing it with that choice of, because I wish you would drop that in the chat, David, about making the choice. I choose to only work with, that making that statement of who we want to draw in as a means of not
right.
bringing everybody in, if you could put that in the chat, that would be very helpful for our listeners today and those who listen later, if they're wanting to explore that, to do it in a way that will make them feel secure and
Right. Yeah.
not letting everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
Well, so it's 40 minutes in right now, and I want to make sure we honor the time. And I have something specific that I want to do towards the end. So we've talked a lot about the different kinds of entities that might try to communicate with us. Now, what I'd like to talk about is a little bit more focus on the messages themselves and what kinds of information that we can get from these different sources, how it might arrive, and how we can pay attention to it. So, who would like to start with that?
Shall I start? The messages, everything that I have ever shared has been supportive. It may, be in some cases a little bit of a ticking off at times of, but it's about taking care of yourself, about taking care of the planet. It's all about support. There's never been anything, even with the werewolf, with the vampire, with many others that people would consider as being evil because of their myths and legends. And yes, I must admit, I was wary to start with. But the experience where I connected very firstly with the werewolf, I was watching a film, not that it's one I would have watched at the cinema, but that's another story. And it was called The Werewolf, or called Man Wolf, actually, I think. And there was a scene, I could have written it, but I would never have written it. I just knew what was going to happen. And I just couldn't watch. And I just thought, I'll call on the werewolf. And I'm not joking, the sense of peace and calm that descended on me was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I also became aware of the fact that I'd got 3 wolves right there with me. I used to be a trainee handler at the UK Wolf Conservation Trust.
Wow.
And the 3 wolves that were with me were 3 of those wolves.
That's beautiful.
So sometimes it is a matter of calling on these beings at a time when you just don't know what else to do. I'm not going to say you're going to get the same result I got, because I knew that I was going to be sitting down with these guys at some stage anyway. But I'm not joking. It was beautiful. So I may not see and hear things, but I jolly well felt that. And the other thing I would say is these things can come at you in many different ways. I was spending some time doing some stuff. I think it was astrology, and they started talking about Chiron. Now, Chiron is a centaur, and he is known as the wounded healer. He was wounded, and he was going to die, and the gods, they gave him back his life, but he kept his wound. He always had that wound. That's why he's known as the wounded healer. And again, I got a message through from a specific centaur, not just the centaurs as a whole. And so it's knowing that you have your own guardian of many different beings, and it's feeling comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with it, that's fine. They are not going to force themselves on you. It is not about creating fear. It is about being there to help and support. And there's so many occasions they've said, please ask. Just as you have to ask the angels, You have to ask us.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
only way they can ever interfere is if it is outside of your chosen life experiences, and it's something that is not meant to happen.
Right. Well, thank you for that. That's beautiful, Sarah. And just to capture what Nancy requested, I just kind of rewrote something
Oh,
that came to me right now. Um, so you can create any kind of an intentional statement for connecting. But here's something that you can start with. I invite and welcome spiritual beings who are interested in supporting me to grow and expand into the fullness of who I am meant to be. Please join me and share your wisdom with me. You can, modify that, use your own words. You can talk about highest good, all kinds of other things, whatever makes sense for you. But bear in mind, what you're doing is you're inviting and welcoming spiritual energy that is to support you. That's what you're specifically asking for. So anyway, that's all I want to say about that. Christy, I noticed you had a few reactions to what
So
Sarah was saying, so I want to hear what you
I
have to
got
say.
out because this little guy wanted to be shown.
Is that one of your fairies?
Yeah, so this is a
Beautiful.
fairy on an eagle, which is basically me.
That's gorgeous. Yeah.
So I kind of communicate with what I would call elementals. And I think that we can work with elementals, but we're not trying to control, we're cooperating. So, for example, I may be, outside and see the sky and be, looking at clouds, and all of a sudden I start to get an image that's almost like a movie that's showing to me with the clouds. So, that's one way that we can be aware and communicated to. In 2021, my husband and I, we have a property that's on a lake. And for 11/11, I decided to be down at the water, and I was going to just do a very intentional, energetic ceremony of just sharing peace with the world. And I sat there and, I closed my eyes and I did this vibe at, 11/11 on 11/11. And when I opened my eyes, the lake was totally flat, which, really doesn't happen that often, especially not that late in the day. So, so I think that if you start to show up for nature, nature wants witness. Nature wants to be noticed because there's so much wisdom and love and messages that will come to us if we are taking the time to look. So you don't necessarily have to be in meditation. You can be outside experiencing this wonderful planet and just bearing witness to its beauty is part of why we're here, I believe. So no act is too small, really.
Yeah, I love it. That's beautiful. And I remember when we did Wisdom of Feather and Fur, you shared another experience that was pretty profound as well. Um, the point of the matter is, I guess, that if we just open our hearts and our awareness, then often we will get messages one way or another. It's just a question of understanding that the messages may not come in the ways that we're used to receiving messages. They may not come in the form of words. They may not come in the form of images. They may come in some other form, like maybe sound or music or maybe a certain kind of silence. There's it's up to you as an individual to open yourself and just say, okay, what am I receiving now? And just trust that when the message arrives, you'll know what it means. You'll know because you have the capacity to understand. Nancy, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about this in terms of receiving the messages from beyond. What's your recommendation or strategy or suggestion?
I think again, kind of acknowledging all of what all of you have said, is in order to receive, you must cover yourself in that very openness of desiring that intangible, or that connection from the realm other than what's, physically or tactile or tangible. And that's been my most profound times of receiving, is when I've just put myself out there vulnerably. I'm usually in nature, so Sedona is my spiritual place. Or hike. We have a place to hike here, so I'm very connected to the natural realm, I guess. So when I'm very open and quiet, then I receive, and I receive it in the sense of energy in my heart, or I just get this warm flow. Again, I don't necessarily see images, or hear, necessarily have that same tangible thing, but I know it's a presence that is with me. And that's usually when I receive mine, when I'm very quiet or outdoors, in a place that I consider spiritual, or very affirming to that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. And we're at 51 minutes now, and I know Sarah has to leave right at the top of the hour. So I wanted to set aside a little bit of time here at the end for a kind of a special moment, if you like, because people don't know this, but today is Nancy's last day. And Nancy has been with me on this soul empowerment journey since we started 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to let this episode end without a proper a moment of appreciation and love for Nancy, who's just been an amazing and supporting person. So I'm going to kind of step back for a moment, and I'm going to let Christy and Sarah say something. Actually, first, before I do that, Nancy, I want to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing.
Well, I am focusing. I'm doing my Vibrant Wellbeing show just the third Thursday monthly on the Wellness Universe platform. And I'm working on also, like I said, I have a skincare products business that I co-own. I'm going to be doing a little bit more work with that, and enjoying doing some more traveling with my husband. So I needed to, as I shared with you, just reorganize my energy output to be in the most balanced, harmonious place with the work that I'm wanting to do. And I can say I have loved my time with you, David, and with you, Sarah and Christy. I've learned so much, and I'm leaving with only the most beautiful, best, positive abundance of energy in my decision. It took me several months to make that connection of where I needed to realign myself. And who knows, maybe I'll be back someday. But I have learned so much. David is such a wise sage. He's probably, unbeknownst to him, on the show, and it was just he and I. You've helped me so much with my own personal growth journey and expansion. And then you, Sarah, and you, Christy, I've really enjoyed broadening my horizon and perspective on all things in life, and self-care, well-being, growing, and becoming. So it's just, my experience has been nothing but incredible with soul empowerment, and with all of you. So I just wanted to let you know how much I deeply appreciate the time I got to be here as a co-host.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nancy, for all of your generous love and support and service. And I'm going to pass it now to Christy. We'll give you a chance to speak.
Nancy, I have enjoyed being with you here, and also getting to know you more through our other meetings in prep for the show. And I applaud you. Really, this is a form of self-care to put your priorities and what is serving you and those you're here to serve at the fore. And I look forward to hearing more about what comes next for you. So I hope you'll keep in touch.
I will. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you too.
Sarah.
I have a message for you, but it's going to be in light language, the language of light. Now, folks, your minds and your ears will not understand this, and I can't translate it. But this, I suppose, is a message for you, Nancy, and for all those who are being true to themselves. And I think that's the only thing I can say about it. Kin charain tiama kato hantara chia tiama. Tayan te ishtin tahahan te ikia. Oishtiana kate emiata. Yoita en tiren chiomai iti. Fihang kantahahane ish. Orantai niaka apakarana yoshtai. Yemtiaka anatayaka. Yoktiniki amanai kishti. Leancho e na akate. Yalatish tanaka a iokuminaktea. Re nata kahe nia kohtana karanekea. Oftanarai kishtiano kumanaitia. Loish timekai. Oshtayanakate eki. Or naiki nata ake. Chianato omaka. Yoshi ta ake tia. Losh tiamanakai ia. Toi tatake ia. Moha e ishtiake te yomoko. Namaste, sweet soul.
Namaste.
Thank you for all that you have shared with us all.
It's been a pleasure. I really felt that. Wow, it must be very beautiful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that one touched me too. Wow, I'm just vibrating right now.
Mhm.
I got chills. Talk about messages from beyond, huh?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're here about? Anyway,
Mhm.
wow. I just want to say, Nancy, that I have seen your heart, I've seen your soul, I've seen your beautiful spirit, and I love the fact that you share in a way of communicating that's different from mine. Because I learn things from alternate forms of communication and so it's really powerful to me. So I'm very grateful that you have been with me on this entire journey for 3 years, and I think you have missed only one of our episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
But that's really, I just love you. That's all. I love you, and I wish you the very, very best on your journey moving forward. And I look forward to seeing how your soul gets empowered.
Well, thank you. I'm feeling such a warm glow from all of you right now. I can't. There you go. It's a perfect show. I just can't thank all of you enough, and I appreciate each and every one of you, and especially you, David. You're the one that got the show off the ground all these 3 years ago, and it's been a beautiful and lovely journey. So I will be in touch with you. Who knows? I may, like I said, come back and guest on the show. So I look forward to letting you know how my journey is.
Awesome. Well, it's been quite a little journey here today, and I'm feeling pretty awesome about this. I hope you who have been watching have also gained something from this, and anybody who's looking at the recording, I hope you got a lot out of it. So just a reminder that you can watch recordings of this and every other show on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. And I look forward to sharing our next episodes with whoever chooses to show up. It's going to be amazing. So until next time, I'm just going to say love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. And may your heart be open to incredible and powerful messages from beyond.